Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hello everyone, my name is David Pietrangelo and I am the host of Remember 64, Back in My Day, and the Creature Cast. I am busy all over the place. Remember 64, you may have heard as a Nintendo 64 deep dive into each game of the 64's library. And Back in My Day is a time where we spend some time looking back on the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s where we grew up, while also talking about stuff from today, especially all the cool stuff from Star Wars and Marvel on Disney+. Just love it. We're all over it. And then Creature Cast is where you can find me talk about new video games and news, part of the consolecreatures.com roster there. But today, yes, I do have a Nintendo 64 podcast, and I do love the console. But I will tell you that one of the defining games for me growing up goes to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It is the console that was my first that I owned, and it is a game that I got day one when I had that console. It is Mario Paint. When I've brought this game up to people in the past, there's been quite a few that have said, oh, wow, I completely forgot about this game. Or, oh, I remember this, I just never had it. Or, I didn't even know this was a thing. There was a peripheral for the SNES that had a mouse and a mouse pad. And the answer is yes. Yes, there was. This game is something that has always sort of stuck in the back of my mind as something special. But I think as I got older, I actually appreciated what it did even more, I think. You know, at the time, you know, this is early and mid 90s. I'm just getting into console gaming and really gaming in general. This is a clear purchase for parents. You know, if your parents are going to help you get a console or a game, something that's slightly educational, doesn't have a lot of violence, you know, has something different like a mouse. Plus, we didn't have a computer at the time. Let's get this game. Sure, why not? And it's, I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect for kids especially. But, you know, it did so many things, starting from the intro screen where you can just mess around with it. Similar to Super Mario 64, where you can move around Mario's face and hat and sort of mess with his features and all that. In Mario Paint, you could go and little Mario from Super Mario World was jumping around and all of that stuff through the screen, and you can just put items on there. You can move him around. You can draw and literally paint on the screen and do something different with it. And the second you got into the game, it gave you all these options of different games and different modes that you could play, which was something that really, honestly, you only saw on probably PC games at that point, or maybe a couple other games, but I can't think of any on the top of my head anyway. At the time, when you're younger, you want to play a game, a quote-unquote game. So a lot of the go-to stuff was two in particular. One of them was the fly swatting game, which I think a lot of people probably recognize if they saw it, where essentially you are Mario's hand, or Luigi's hand, however you want to see it, holding a fly swatter, and there was a whole bunch of different bugs that flew across the screen. I think it was various surfaces in a kitchen and a house. There was different types of tables. There was countertops. They all just basically had a different surface or background for the game, and you just had to fly swat them. You just had to hit them as quick as you could. Some of them had projectiles. Some of them were like robotic wasps or something. You sort of had like a health meter as well. So you had to hit them as soon as you could and as quick as you could. And you could be swarmed and overwhelmed like you could with a lot of games that have bugs and wasps and bees and flies and stuff like that. But then after you sort of cleared a section or a tabletop, you face this giant wasp, or almost like a queen or king bee, and they spat out little wasps, and you just had to keep hitting them. You know, it was very much a point and click action game, I guess you could call it, because you're moving the mouse around and you were left clicking or right clicking to fly swat your enemies essentially. And it was just a lot of fun. And definitely at the time, especially for me, who we didn't have a computer at the time, not at home anyway. I believe my dad had one at work, but this was a computer game, but on the TV and on a Nintendo and with Mario essentially. And that is, I don't know. I just, it's a little bit of a, this is going to sort of precursor into my next point of why this game is special, but it's a little bit of a Mario Maker type of idea where it did something different. and did something new and was a whole lot of fun. And, it was pretty difficult. You could even play it in co-op, which was just crazy. I think one person had to use the controller, I believe. But either way, it was definitely fun. And even if you played it solo, you just take turns with the mouse. And, the mouse wasn't perfect. It was a plastic, I think it was about a 6-inch by 6-inch mouse pad that was plastic with the roller ball underneath. It was early 90s technology, but it just did something different. And then, as I mentioned, the sort of Mario Maker idea, to me, what's extra special about this, and what I appreciated the most as I got older, is the music aspect, the music mode or game in this, where you could make any music you wanted at a full scale, and all these different options and sounds that you could use to make any song or any wacky music that you wanted. I mean, if you don't understand scales, you don't understand music, is it really called music? I don't know. Either way, it's a learning experience. And that's something you probably don't really think about or appreciate as a kid. But, we actually, even though we couldn't read music at the time, one of the things that stands out to me is me and my brother, and I think my cousin as well, we love Ninja Turtles, and we tried to recreate the Ninja Turtles music in Mario Paint. And that is something that you could think of in games like Mario Maker, for example, where you would try to create something from something else, or the Little Big Planet, creation and Dreams and all those games that are out in the last 15 to 20 years that have done something like this. But this did this in early and mid 90s. It's insane. I think this music stuff it's important to have something like this in a game as well. And there are aspects of this in other games and much more efficient ways of doing this now in games that are strictly about this at this point. But I think at this time for Nintendo to go and use this as a game/learning experience is really cool because, it really just gives you a chance to free roam and do whatever you want. And you can make wacky sounds. There was a pig, there was the coin, there was the question mark block, there was all these different things that made weird, wacky sounds, but you could actually make a song just with different notes and different weird sounds and everything. And then there was also pre-built ones. You could click on option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it would have pre-built recognizable Nintendo songs, and you can mess around with them. Or you could just press play and listen to it. Or you could replace each one of those notes with a different sound, and all of a sudden this cow or this pig sound would jump in the middle of the Mario tune that you recognize from Super Mario World. It was so cool. Those are the two things that stand out the most to me, I would say, in Mario Paint. And I think the ones that will probably last the longest, because other than that, they did have the quote unquote typical Paint, Microsoft Paint style thing where you could put stickers and draw pictures and everything. But I think those are the two modes, the music and the fly swatting modes and games that they stuck with me. I think this is something special because I really do think that it was a really early way of experiencing something different in games. And I know I've said that probably a few times in the last few minutes, but Mario Paint is something special and should be appreciated. And honestly, any kind of like historical or preserving or Hall of Fame that's out there, I think Mario Paint needs to be in there and recognized for these reasons. It's something special. It's really close to my heart. It's one of those things where I forgot about for a little while, but then I realized, you know what? It really, really did something special. And I think that if you haven't tried it, it's hard to now, but it's something to check out. Even just watching a video of it and just seeing sort of what I'm explaining is something that maybe you'll appreciate it too, and maybe you'll agree with me. If not, all good. I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned a potentially forgotten game from the Super Nintendo and from Nintendo's lineup, Mario Paint. Excellent, excellent game, something that's special to my heart. All right, once again, my name's David Pietrangelo. You can find me on Remember 64, Back in My Day, and the Creature Cast on your podcast feed. And as always, everybody, happy gaming.
Hey there, Screen Beans. Have you heard about Screen Snark?
Rachel, this is an ad break. They aren't Screen Beans until they listen to the show.
Fine. Potential Screen Beans. You like movies and TV shows, right?
I mean, who doesn't? Screen Snark is a casual conversation about the movies and television shows that are shaping us as we live our everyday lives.
That's right, Matt. We have a chat with at least one incredible guest every episode, hailing from all walks. We've interviewed chefs,
Writers, costumers, musicians,
yoga teachers, comedians, burlesque dancers,
folks in the film and TV industry,
and more.
We'd be delighted for you to join us every other Monday on the Certain POV Podcast Network.
Or wherever you get your podcasts, fresh and tasty off the presses.
What? That's not.
Can I call them screen beans now?
Fine.
Screen beans.
So tune in and we'll see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere.
'Cause you're all screen beans now.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.